right, how's everyone doing? Anything fun that you saw on the show floor currently? Anything? Shout it out. Cool. I saw kid robots, or like robots for kids. Anyways, let's get going. I'm Adam Yee. I'm a food scientist, serial entrepreneur, and host of the podcast My Food Job Rocks, and also Maybe Food, Maybe Tech on the Spoon Network. I'm moderating this panel with some amazing panelists. And it's all about AI. So we need AI tools across the entire food supply chain, from berries to finished products and everything in between, including ingredients and bioactives. All of this is food. And so we have some of the top AI companies in the food industry represented here today. And I don't think I can do them justice by trying to explain what each of these amazing companies do. So I'll let them speak for themselves. So we'll start with just saying an introduction from each company's representative or founder, who you are, your role, and a one-sentence description of what your company does, and the type of impact you're having on your specific food category. Yeah, let's start with you, Jasmine.
All right, I can kick it off. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Hume. I am the founder and CEO of Shiru. We are an AI company that has developed a way to interrogate the world of natural proteins to be able to create ingredients that solve challenges related to nutrition, texture, and health. Our team focuses on basically making that technology accessible to large CPGs. So we work in partnership as a B2B company with companies all across the food, beverage, ingredient space to help them basically cut costs, cut time to develop ingredients that are better for people and better for the planet. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So Matias, I'm the CEO and the founder of NotCo. So fundamentally, NotCo is the first foundational AI platform for the consumer goods industry. I think 10 years ago, we figured that food and consumables in general were incredibly important for health span and lifespan of our civilization, and yet most of the product decisions were being made in committee negotiations and with technology that was very dangerous, which is trial and error, as we like to call it. And so we figured that formulations are multidimensional problems to the SKU level, very much like gene editing in pharma, rather than kind of like finding a blockbuster drug, one size fits all kind of thing, right? So understanding that formulations are incredibly complex and depend on billions of different parameters, it's really hard for a group of humans to understand that. And therefore, AI can truly do the work for them. And so I guess at the edge, what we really understood is that AI's role in the physical world, it's not only to create foods faster, better, more accurate, less costly than what we're doing right now. It's basically to really avoid the physical work. So back in 2015, as you may think, it was really hard to construct context in terms of data to really make sure that a computer can do 85% of the work that today is being done by an expert in a lab rather than in a computer. So that's what we're doing, and we're helping probably 20 of the 50 biggest CPG companies in the world.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Nora, Khaldi. I'm the founder of Nuritas. My background, I'm a pure mathematician and computer scientist by background. And this is how Nuritas started. We wanted to make ingredient discovery possible, because creating new ingredients that fuel every product you consume, whether you eat it, put it on your face or whatever, takes forever. It's actually impossible today to create new ingredients with clinical claims and health claims. And so Nuritas came about to solve that. So we built a technology that can actually identify new ingredients that improve human health in a fraction of the time and cost. A lot of our ingredients today are in a lot of products you're consuming globally, which is great. So it made it through discovery all the way into regulatory clinical proof and scaling and onto the market. Which is amazing. But ultimately, the story is that for finding an ingredient like one of ours is Pepti Strong, it It takes about 30 billion years to find that ingredient if we were to use the current techniques used today in traditional world. And we did that in a few months using AI, our technology. So it's making the impossible possible, which is really impressive. But if you think about it as well, a lot of natural sources, let's say just an apple, an orange, or whatever you're taking, has about 30 billion different peptides. That's what we're focused on, identifying peptides within. And it's very hard to know what does what. So what we do is identify those peptides with AI and bring them to market, replacing a lot of the ingredients used in the industry today for healthier products, healthier ingredients, which I'll talk a little bit more about as well. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Scott Komar, Senior Vice President of Global R&D for Driscoll's. Driscoll's is the world's largest berry company. We only have 4 products, 4 berries: strawberry, raspberry, blackberry, and blueberry. But we operate on every continent around the world. This year we will reach over 300 million consumers and bringing fresh berries to everyone's homes, hopefully some of your homes as well. On the farming side, we are vertically based, and so we're doing all of our own growing of these berries. So we're bringing a lot of industry to these small farming regions around the world. And in the middle of all that is my group, and that's where we're using a lot of these days with AI and other technologies to accelerate the 20 breeding programs that we have behind these 4 berry crops.
Love it. All right, so some of you are developing kind of these smaller, highly specialized AI models that deeply understand food's building blocks, but there are also large foundational models such as OpenAI, and who are also kind of doing these things as well with pharma, health, and possibly food as well. And they believe that their models can power innovation across industries. Are smaller startups in danger as bigger foundational models expand into food and beverage? So
Wow, we're starting strong here. Thanks,
I know,
Adam.
right? Is OpenAI coming for your lunch?
I'm really excited to hear the panel's views on this. I think that execution really matters in what we're doing, and I think, as Matias alluded to, there's a crossover between living in the in silico world and data and the infrastructure and software that's necessary to be able to get the insights, and then there's a completely other, equally as complex part of the process, which is turning those insights into actionable, valuable products. And that's where I think anyone who's played around with the models like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Gemini, et cetera, we all know that maybe it gets us 80% of the way there, but if you don't put in the 20%, it's going to be slop. And the same thing is true for, I think, the space that Shiru's in for sure. We need to always validate, we need to verify that the ingredients that these models are predicting are actually performing the way that we need them to. So I think that that's a really unique moat. I think that the skill to be able to translate those in silico insights into real products is something that the companies on this stage are representing and doing well, and it's a really specific skill. So not worried.
The beauty of vertical specificity, at the end of the day, we've been 10 years not only creating technology products, but really making sure, to be honest, you can have the best technology in the world, but if it's not a technology product created for food scientists or culinary experts, you're done. You need to understand, really get into the mind of the food scientist. When, why, and where does he need to use the technology? I always portray food scientists as strikers in soccer. I don't know, I'm from Latin America, so maybe that's not the best analogy here, but quarterbacks. Quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the star player can get the goal.
Really want to kind of like be the, when they see that there is something that might be kind of like threatening as well in their everyday work, they simply don't use it, and period. So this is more about what these incredible LLMs and computing power sources like OpenAI could really do with the data we've constructed and the knowledge and the know-how. So they're not coming for our food, they're inviting us to lunch, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when you look at it in general, understanding biology is super complicated. Like, we as humans have not understood it yet. There's a lot of things we don't know, but also this vertical expertise within an area. It takes decades to just build the data that fuels the AI system in terms of learning. And it's not data that you can just get off. You have to actually build it, and it takes the time to build. So a lot of it is experimental data, clinical data, which takes forever. And you build it through many, many years, and you can't accelerate that data. And then there's all the other aspects. So let's say in the space we're in, we need to create ingredients that are stable in formulation. The pharma industry, for example, they can modify things to be stable. We can't do that in the food space. So there's criteria that are very different from space to space. And you learn through many, many years of experimentation, creating data within these different pockets. Bioavailability, when you're taking something orally, it needs to resist digestion. That, again, you have to create lots of data models and create the data and lots of models to actually start predicting things that are going to be orally available, while in other industries, you can literally modify the molecule to be more orally available. In this area, you can't. And so on and so forth. So deep expertise, deep development of data that's specific to the questions you're asking. And that really puts a massive bridge on a gap between someone coming in and eating our lunch. It would take forever.
I see. Interesting. Any notes?
Yeah, Adam, look, we think there's room for both. At Driscoll's, our foundation is Copilot. We have a very strong relationship with Microsoft, and they're working with us directly. But having said that, as we've just heard 3 great examples, there's always going to be that niche element of what we're trying to get done, and that requires depth that the big boys are not going to go after. And so for us, we're thinking about, okay, well, most of what we're going to do is on Copilot, and that's fine, but how do we augment with that foundation? And that's where the specialization comes in. We think that's particularly true for these forecasting models that we're developing, and because there's just an aspect of berries, and in this case, Driscoll's berries with Driscoll's genetics, that we see room for this base and then the specialization.
So from what I hear from the whole panel is that you need specialized data and specialized people to get the job done, and that's why this is what makes what you're doing very unique. Is that a true statement, would you say? Or
that, and also the duration to create the data. So you can't accelerate clinicals. You can't accelerate the certain aspects of the life cycle, regulatory, that if you do many, many of those and you learn, it's very hard to accelerate that with tons of money.
That's a very good point about clinicals. Yeah.
I also think about this interesting open question about who owns the data. Because of course those foundational models were built on publicly available data sets. And so that is not the case in the food industry. Everyone hugs their data and protects it very, very carefully and very closely because of how hard it is to acquire that data and how specific it is. And so wouldn't it be nice if there was a more publicly available repository for this, that we could have cross-sector learnings, but we're just not there yet.
And one thing as well, because we made a mistake at the beginning, it's not a mistake, it's a learning, in terms of we used publicly available data because we didn't have enough data at the beginning to start identifying new molecules. And the data humans have published in scientific journals is very biased, super biased. A lot of it is not repeatable. So whatever you actually develop based on that data does not work. And we've done it for a long time. So, even in the peptide world, which is a subsection of the types of molecules, a lot of the data is driven towards hormonal peptides. So a lot of the publications are on hormones, but the peptide world is the biggest world known to humankind. It's a huge combination of molecules. And humans have only studied around maybe 16 to 20 backbones, which give rise to thousands of different combinations. But that's among the infinite number of other. So that's one of the reasons as well.
Interesting. So you did talk about privacy, which has probably been the biggest thing I've learned when talking to food companies, that they really want their data private. So I would say a lot of food brand executives are skeptical about AI and how it can transform their business. In what ways are they right to be skeptical, whether it be job loss or data privacy? And how might this hesitation put them at risk of losing market share?
One thing is already happening. No, market share is being lost by, from big brands to very small startups that are
Big
more
food's like
nimble.
double digits down, right?
Yeah, double digits, and also expansion of we call it the cake, no? But there's a bigger cake because there's different sales channels that are new to these big brands. And what I think is that at the end of the day, you will need to adopt certain things, and you need to be willing to risk it, because now there's an element of existential threat that there wasn't before. No, so let's put an example. Now at the end, you got on one side the adoption of AI, and now board members, all of the board members probably of the big CPG brands are using AI. No, and probably as consumers, not kind of like guardrailed by a lot of cybersecurity. They are using it, right? And they're asking what kind of questions I need to do in the board meeting, and they uploading the board meeting, slides. So kind of like that's happening already, no? And so they saw the value of AI, number one. But on the other side, this truly kind of like perfect storm came to CPGs. And it came from three factors. One is changing in consumer preference. Second is regulatory pressures. And third is supply chain disruptions, right? They today don't have, a technology that is able to actually react at the pace of all of those factors changing. Take artificial color dyes. Maja saying, red 40 is banned. In the next 2 years, you need to do the commitment of taking, artificial color dyes from all of your foods, right? I'm not going to name names, but one of the companies in the US, one of the biggest companies in the US, $5 billion out of the $25 billion that they make every year comes from the SNAP program, right? And so if you check the guidelines and you say we're going to forbid red 40, then you need to probably change 5,500 SKUs, right? So when you need to do that, and you make a commitment that the next 2 years you're going to change that, and you go to your R&D, the R&D says, there's no effing way, no, that we're going to do this.
Never been done before.
Ever, right? So the next question is, well, then who do we need to call? So in some ways, also we've been looked as fools for the last 10 years, probably, utilizing AI and talking about AI when AI wasn't a thing, then all of a sudden we become the Better Call Sauls of the industry, right? So I think these two things happened. And today, there's no other chance for big companies to start believing that AI is going to truly allow them to continue existing, to be honest. That's in the kind of marginal side.
Agreed. I think that any skepticism that there has been, there's a clock on that. There's a real clock that has to, either if people can stay skeptical and have their competitors take market share because they are adopting more efficient ways to solve these same challenges, or you embrace the change and figure it out, which a lot of the companies are doing.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think in our environment, it's not so much the skepticism, perhaps, Adam, but it's more this debate about the time horizon that the shifts are going to happen, and we're having some pretty rich debates, I'll have to say, about what the time frame is going to be. But we see groups that'll say, this is going to change overnight, and you guys better wake up. And then there's other groups that say, I've heard this before, and this, is going to take forever. And so we're trying to cut through all that fog to say, all right, well, yes, we're very familiar with how the genetics, Mother Nature is evolving, okay? But in our case, the difference is we are walking such a straighter line to where we're trying to go. So for example, we're trying to develop and bring to the market a new super flavorful blueberry, let's say, okay? Well, traditionally that would take, minimum 10 years. and it's a slow march, and you kind of zig and zag left and right and so forth as you go down. Well, now we're walking a straighter path, so, you drop a year, it's no question it's going faster. But it's not overnight in our case. And so that for us is debates a lot about, well, what is the real time horizon that we think, all these effects will show up in the market, on the shelf.
So we're going to get a super good blueberry next year? Is that what you're saying?
You can get some right now.
Okay.
But
okay.
we do have continuously new varieties coming out, and we have a new family of products called Sweetest Batch. I hope some of you have tried those. They're really a lot of fun. They're super flavorful. And so we're bringing more of those to market, and which is really tricky, by the way. Super top flavor with enough production yield it's a fun challenge.
Love it, Nora.
And then just on the time horizon, I think it's very soon. Like just if you go back to basics, how people buy and choose products, just the buying part, consumers, how they're choosing their product, how they're buying it, and why they buy it. It's not going to be driven by branding and marketing of the companies and CPG companies anymore, because that's going to be integrated to the wider view of how AI views the world, which is the publications on the ingredients. What ingredients is the company using to produce a product? What's the science behind those ingredients? What is regulatory saying? What are other consumer bodies that are independent from the CPG's marketing campaigns saying about the product? And how does the product compare from an ingredient perspective to other products on the market? And that's how AI is viewing the world, and people are going to choose based on that. They're not going to choose anymore based on a brand and marketing and how the company positions itself, which is what's happening up to maybe a year ago, but these things are changing. People are searching for a wider view and choosing differently. And these applications already exist. Some of them are here, but that's just going to grow and grow. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on CPG companies, and they have to absolutely, and that's just one side. Obviously, you're mentioning supply chain and every other aspect, manufacturing, formulation. But even the buying part, where they're making their revenue, is going to be totally, completely disrupted over the next couple of years. And ingredients is going to be part of it. So,
For sure. So this brings my next question, because I think we're talking about time horizons, and this technology, this AI specifically, is going so fast. My favorite example is Will Smith eating spaghetti. A year ago, he couldn't eat spaghetti through an AI prompt, but now he can eat spaghetti very well. Anyways, besides that point, you're balancing this. Thanks for laughing, by the way. So you're balancing these innovations in AI, and you're comparing them with kind of this natural traditional process of food. What keeps you up at night when it comes to dealing with just this balance of innovative technology and how we do things in the food industry currently?
Yeah, maybe I'll kick this one off. For us, it's the external, of course, our competition. So that keeps me up at night. But climate change is, as we know, it's a global phenomenon. That is coming at us faster and faster and faster. We don't see any abatement in it. And it puts a lot of pressure on production of any kind of food, including berries, around the world. And that is, for us, I think, such a unifying factor for the food industry and the food production industry, because everybody is dealing with this challenge, and we welcome any and all solutions, I would say, AI-based or not, that can help us push back that pressure. And so that, I think, is truly the industry dynamic that everyone is wrestling with, and it finds its way ultimately into ingredients and everything else, because you're just that foundational layer is really under attack worldwide.
Interesting. With climate change too. So you are seeing the data that climate change is really affecting, and you need the AI technology.
I'm going to leave for Asia in a few days. I'll be through there, and it doesn't matter where I go. Every trip, the people want to show me, like, hey, Scott, we get discussion. Like, we just had this event a couple months ago. It totally wiped us out. Or here's this new pest or this new disease. We've never seen this before. We don't know where this came from. It is really shaking up the food industry, the food production industry, and it's going to be the defining element. I would say, maybe forever, but for certainly the next 10 years. So it does help us focus across the industry on how can we push this back and ensure that we can get food to homes and everybody around the world.
Great.
I think that's a really important point and such a macro one as well. I think one of the things, and maybe this ties to it, it's the concept of resiliency and how quickly we can respond to certain changes as an industry. A lot of the ingredients giants and food companies, they've been around for 200 plus years. And we think about all of these influences, whether they be political, climate, technology influenced. These changes are just happening faster and faster as we're evolving and advancing. And I question whether the mentality and the traditional ways of doing business when it comes to either ingredients, product development in food, launching new products, are resilient enough or elastic enough to be able to move at the pace of change that's really required. How that manifests for Shiru is that we are an early stage company and we are still constantly iterating and evolving on what the right scalable business model is for the company. We're developing new technology that's never been provided to ingredients and food CPGs before. And so there's a lot of education around it. But we have to look at things a little bit more creatively, I think, as an industry to be able to effectively respond to these changes.
So I agree on that. It's funny because no one is independent to what's happening in other industries. So when at the beginnings when we were creating ingredients and as we started taking them to market about 2.5 years ago, it was okay. So these are ingredients that are transformative from a health perspective. There's a lot of clinical data supporting it, but how do you get that information and that knowledge to consumers, and how do you translate that? And the realization that other areas around us are moving really fast. One of the areas would be wearables and how people actually measure their health. And so what we did then is start integrating wearables into our clinicals so that it's not just this is good for you, believe us, because that's not where technology is going, that's not where AI is going. This is measured, you can actually see it. So some of our ingredients we've integrated, let's say with certain wearables for sleep, for improvement of sleep, and you can literally see it in your wearable from day to day, the improvements you're getting before and after. So, and I think that's actually integrating, and that kept me up at night a while back, but it was like, okay, how do we use other technologies around us to and seeing where things are moving in terms of trends, etc. People in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years are going to buy things that they know is going to work for them. It's not going to be based on brands.
Proof, right?
So that's why integrating with other
your
technologies.
peptides will help you sleep at night, though, right?
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Good.
For me, it's I'd say the one thing that is incredible to be the better call Saul of many of these companies is that you are watching firsthand the common denominators to the major crises that CPGs are facing, and they talk to each other. They're pretty much related to what Scott said, which is climate change. No? Mm-hmm. We've been in project of hazelnut, orange juice, cocoa, all of those things that are legit, running out of this world. Cocoa, that small strip of West Africa, is suffering from climate change, and literally we don't have enough supply to sustain a growing demand in the world of cocoa. So, what is the next question is what do we replace it with? Mm-hmm. And it's not, again, one size fits all, right? Cocoa has different origins, different percentages, different ingredients, cocoa butter, cocoa, all of those. Then you have different applications, ice creams, cookies, whatever. So every single one of them require a different solution for them. And if you're not utilizing AI to do that, then you are screwed. So again, and connecting it to your previous question is the pace in which adoption of AI in this world that is changing dramatically fast, I think it's not there. It has to be faster, and it requires risk. And you need to be willing to take risk in order to stop losing market share and competition. So it's a world in which you need a proof of value. That's fine, because we're still using ChatGPT because probably the first 3 queries that we did were fantastic. And it keeps getting better and better and better. Then all of the CPGs, you cannot also kind of like point a finger to the big CPGs of not adopting AI if they haven't found a great value in AI, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we are in this moment. I mean, the companies that you see here are doing incredible stuff with this, guys, and they are convincing more and more that they need to start using. And then there's another question, whether they build or buy. That's another question.
Interesting. So this field is moving really, really fast. As you know, there's new, and it seems with climate change kind of running up there, we have to go faster, it seems. What's exciting you with all these new tools, whether it's here or in the news, hardware, software? Is it the models that are being launched or maybe not? The infrastructure being built, like the data centers that are being kind of fronted forward? Or is there technology already on the show floor that you found really exciting?
Maybe I can take that first. So, look, I think what has dramatically changed is compute power, right? So, before we were spending a lot of money in, solutions. So, one of the incredible things about AI is that it expands the domain of knowledge of what humans can actually detect, right? Combination of ingredients, things that you would never think of before because of bias, because of information, because of research, etc. That in the chemical reaction of certain ingredients, you generate certain, volatiles that makes you think that a product is milk when it's not milk, right? So things like that, no? But the vicinity of that domain of knowledge was very limited by the compute power that it used to be. Now, you can really start searching for billions and billions of combinations in 3 seconds. And literally, you have already tested 85% of the possible solutions, and therefore, the work of every food scientist is way better, way faster, more innovative. And maybe, also, we're always kind of like searching for cool things to do. AI doesn't care a lot about cool things, no? So for example, for one of the clients that we work with is the solution of the next product to launch was, food for hospitals, right? Yep. And they're not in that sector at all, right? And the reason why is because we detected that a lot of the people that die in clinics don't die because of the sickness. They die because of malnutrition, right? And I mean, that's an insight that has been here probably for 100 years, but no one came up with this idea because of the bias or whatever, it's uncool or so on. But this is a multi-billion-dollar idea, and we're working on something like that. So what can AI can do now that it didn't before? Really reinvent the complete CPG industry and we will start seeing products that we never saw before or thought before.
I will just build on that. I completely echo the same excitement around what's possible. I think, so Shiru, we use large language models that interpret the language of proteins as natural molecules. And a couple of years ago, there was a foundational model called AlphaFold that was published, and it basically broke the mold for all of biology. The essential problem of understanding protein sequence to function was kind of solved with the publishing of this model. That's created such a foundation for innovation that so many folks that are predominantly in the pharma space, although we use these models in the food space, are just rapidly building on it. And so every time I open my email or open LinkedIn or X or whatever, there are all of these new papers published on how folks are continuing to develop and make these models stronger, better, faster, smarter, more accurate. And all of this research is open source. So we can just grab it, integrate it, and create business value from it almost instantaneously. So that's been extremely exciting.
That's super cool.
I think another thing exciting for us is in two broad areas. Internally, the insights that we have now on the genetics, with full sequencing of all the genetics of these plants, and the insights that we can get from these AI models are pretty mind-blowing. As I mentioned earlier, flavors is such a complex trait, and we're gaining insights to what can be unlocked with flavor in these programs. And at the same time, we can identify, will this genetics stand up to this pest or disease, yes or no? And so it's allowing us to walk a much straighter path as we go. And at the same time, our farms are becoming smarter, more technically enabled. And so the insights that our growers can get actually helps them achieve the potential of these genetics. So one example is let's call it an AI agronomist, but the ability for a grower to just take a picture of something looks kind of weird on their crop. That thing comes back, you can instantly diagnose it. In the past, it was like, hey, send an email. There's a problem. Oh well, the expert will come out in a few weeks and take a look. It's just so much faster. So they're able to get out in front of things much quicker and get the full potential of that crop to the market. And I know in all areas of food production, this kind of theme is unfolding, so I think it's very encouraging how this is going to play out.
Love it.
So I agree, because we have very similar data issues in terms of past and present. One of the things Nuritas has been trying to work out the past few years has been, we want to have a solution, or a peptide solution, an ingredient solution for every human target. Some of which we will develop fully ourselves and take to market as a clinically valid ingredient that is going to be added to various products, and some of which we'll just sell to various companies so they take it forward. But that was a very big challenge for us even 3 years ago. And today it's been solved with a lot of the models you've mentioned, but also that even when there's no crystal structure to the target in the human body, because it's thousands of targets, each target would modulate a health benefit. Now we can actually predict the 3D structure of the target, and we can find peptides that modulate it and take the peptide forward. And that, again, like 3 years ago, was not possible. And it opened up this for us significantly, which is great.
So we are eating their lunch. Just kidding.
Yes.
But I do see, I hear a consensus here is that almost like a rising tide is raising all ships, eating their lunch. It's a fun phrase. But it seems like with all the investments in compute and all the cool compute and all the cool research being like kind of innovating, that it is a very promising what is going to happen in the future with this technology.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
Love
we should
it.
be very optimistic.
Get
about what's
excited,
coming.
everyone. AI is coming. All right, and last question, real short though, but I think it's always awesome to hear how impactful AI actually is on whatever you guys are doing as a company. Can you share an example of how kind of your AI or AI system has already made a significant impact in the food industry?
Well, I'll just give one that I know is bubbling up in again, all different crops, but I'll use a berry example. But analogy is kind of, you hear a lot about, hey, AI being used in radiology, and it can see an image maybe even if this really experienced radiologist missed. That kind of factor is showing up now in our work, where the predictive model can see something that these really, really talented, experienced scientists, they couldn't see. And I hear that in all different crops is going on, where we're seeing through these predictive models things that you just wouldn't be able to pick up, even with all the experience that's out there.
Cool.
I'll give a surprising one maybe. So yes, we use AI as like the core foundation of our technology at Shiru, but we've created a lot of business value in using AI for basically everything else that the company needs to operate. So everything from like emails to marketing to finance. Like, we use AI, meaning agents and bots, basically, to automate all kinds of different functions across the business. We're a really small company, and it's basically enabled us to do the work of, you know, a team that might have been 3 times the size by reducing, you know, just or taking advantage of those different agents and workflows.
AI culture, right, in a sense?
Yeah, AI native, essentially. Like, we think about how to automate everything we do almost before we have to go and do it.
Love it. Anyone else? You want that? No.
Look, I think you're putting us on the spot, because if you think that they don't want, you know, CPGs don't want, you know, to share their data, they don't want also to share anything
cool
about their projects, right? So,
yeah.
you know, again, I think there are potentially, you know, 15 products that are being today sold in the world that have our technology, but more in a Trojan horse than anything else, solving for, you know, cocoa reduction or, you know, other reductions, but also sugar-free things and stuff that you've seen lately launched. Well, we're there.
I'll take that.
I'll give you maybe quickly just 4 examples because they're very similar. But like I mentioned earlier, we developed, starting off from consumer needs, so identifying a consumer need and using AI, our technology, to find a peptide and then clinically proving it and taking it to market. And we started with very interesting consumer needs, one of which is strength and optimizing your protein intake. So strength is an interesting area because as we age, we lose strength, we lose muscle. As a consequence, our metabolism goes down, inflammation goes up, and our energy goes down. And today there's no real solution. The only solution is take more protein, but protein is a nutrient. It does not repair the muscle, skeletal muscle cells. So we created an ingredient called PeptiStrong, which actually complements protein and doubles the effect of protein. So if you're taking 20 grams, it's like taking 40 grams with very little of PeptiStrong, clinically proven, etc. And what it does is that it augments your strength. And this is important because it's important for all age groups, whether you're in sports nutrition, whether you want to just maintain your strength and energy throughout the day, or whether you're in bed rest in hospital where you mentioned, for example, people are not dying because of the disease, they're dying because of loss of strength. So that's the important part of, and with GLP-1 agonists now all over the place, people are losing more muscle as they lose weight. So PeptiStrong is really well placed for that as well. You want to maintain your muscle for longer. And that one now is in various products. You can Google it. PeptiSleep is the other one that we did and integrated it with a wearable where you can literally see the difference in your sleep, your REM, your deep sleep, and your heart rate variability, where you're much calmer, you sleep better, same duration, but your sleep is much better. And you can literally see that through your wear. So we get people sending us their wearable data, which is really cool. And then there's another one for glucose management, so reducing the spike, so reducing the impact sugar has on you, and we've done it with the wearable, with Abbott wearable. But there are ones where we've combined, we didn't take it fully ourselves. BASF, the largest chemical company in the world, we developed an anti-inflammatory with them, and they've now taken it in various products globally in dandruff. So reduction of dandruff and inflammation of the scalp is a good example of that one. It's another peptide we discovered for them. They did all the work in terms of scaling, clinicals, all that. So these are some examples of how AI can accelerate the discovery of these molecules, which wouldn't have been impossible to do with the current technologies of today. Like, for example, one of the peptides has been in existence for 100 million years, embedded within a protein, so no one could find it. And you can't just use the source material, it doesn't work. So it took AI to find it.
Love it. And thanks so much for being on this panel today. It was super interesting to learn about all of these companies. As you can tell, this is a nascent field up for all sorts of different discoveries in every part of food.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.